a lot of stuff due every day, so it's kind of a lot better.
Same here, but I'm taking 3, but I don't know. I like this class too because I like the Excel worksheets. I never thought I'd be good at them, but I think the YouTube videos are what helps gain my confidence a little bit. But I like that I'm learning that as well. But
Cool.
yeah, it's my favorite class so far.
Well, that's good. The reason I'm asking because, as you guys all know, we will be going. The first 2 weeks of class will be online in the fall. So I'm trying out different things with you guys to see how that really works. So I don't want to say you guys are my guinea pigs, but y'all are my guinea pigs and some test dummies here. How about this online lecture discussion? Does that work for you? Have you had anything like this in other classes, or is this the first time where you've done a lecture online in this fashion?
This is the first time for me. They usually there's like a person's account we had to make, and that's kind of like our lecture, and they just kind of tell us what homework to do, and it's on the side it's like help me solve this, and I guess that's like the closest thing we have. So I kind of like having this, but I know most people won't be able to do that.
Okay. What do you guys think, Brian, Connor?
Yeah, this is my first time doing it like this, so I like it a lot better. But
Okay.
My first time as well, and I like how we're able to go back and like look at the video, and that helps a lot too. So
It's kind of my plan for the fall, for the city's taking this in the fall, is that I will do a lecture like this. Instead of recording a lecture ahead of time, I will do a lecture like this probably on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then Monday, because this class meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the class will be split up into thirds because of classroom space limitations that we have. But we'll come in and we'll actually do activities based off. So in a traditional face-to-face class, we would do activities every week. The way I normally teach this is Monday is my lecture day for the most part. Wednesday is in-class activity day off the lecture, and Friday is Excel. So I'm really trying to keep the same methodology with it. But when you come face-to-face, we'll do activities in class, and then you'd have basically a quiz and other stuff to do throughout the week when you're not physically there. And I have to stream one of my classes, so I'll probably stream an activity. But I just want to make sure that this is being received well as far as a lecture in this modality, because I've taken many online classes in my time, and I try and bring what I liked from those online classes and what I would do differently every time. So this methodology seems to work and tries to replicate class the best that we can. The only difference is I'm sitting here, at home. My dog's sleeping. She was pulling me around the house earlier in my chair. It's fun. I was trying to train her to be a sled dog. But it's always funny because I have laminate floors, so she just can't go. It's like the Roadrunner on thing where his legs just turn, doesn't go anywhere. That's what she was doing. But yeah. So cool. Glad it's going well. What's going on in the world of sports and finance, and what have you guys noticed this week? Anything?
baseball, the Marlins are shut down right now due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more than it was 14, but then I think a few more tested positive, so they're on pause, and then everyone kind of panicked and maybe thought that would have canceled the whole season, but I don't think there were any serious talks, or people were saying there's no serious talks, but I don't know as of now.
So let's just say that it's not the Marlins and it's the New York Yankees. Would there be serious talks about potentially canceling a season at that point?
Probably.
I mean, no
They're
one
more
really.
of a fan.
Yeah, they're a contender. No one cares about the Marlins.
Yeah.
Right? The Marlins are pumping out a high quality AAA club to play big league baseball right now.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
but if we see this and you see the impacts of how it can go where you have the Marlins who played, was it the Nationals? No, it was the Phillies. They played the
Yeah,
Phillies. So
they did. Yeah,
you have those two teams that are there. Then you have the Yankees who are coming in to play the Phillies who are coming. And granted, we know that doesn't really transmit too much via surfaces. So, but you got to see are any of the Phillies players potentially having it? They could get the Yankees players then. You see how it could
yeah.
snowball down the
Hmm.
path. So if you have an outbreak out west and in the Midwest with one or two teams, would you potentially then cancel the season?
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, it could happen so fast, but
It's the crazy world of it, and then there's the thing about the financial ramifications of that for baseball, right? For all these clubs, what have you noticed when you watch the games on TV? What have a lot of clubs done to try and recoup some of their money?
I don't know. What if they did
I mean, they cover up a huge section of the seats in the stadium.
with the
Different,
things, yeah,
different sponsor. So I think Bud Light, one of the stadiums saw Bud Light Homer area, and it had like 4 sections covered with like a big tarp, and that's a sponsor activation site. You have different spots where sponsors might have been integrated into live in-game features. Well, now you got to find a way, if you're that club, to still make money, but have the sponsors visible.
yeah, yeah. I
And
saw some tents in the outfield as well.
yeah, so there's
Yeah,
different ways that they have to do those things. If you're the NFL, are you a little nervous right now?
yeah. But I would say yeah, but then I guess MLB is kind of the guinea pig in a way.
Okay.
So
But it's just like since the NBA is going, for the most part pretty well, but then like you have this stuff happen in the MLB, then like I don't know, it's like still even though you got one like organization kind of I guess you could say doing good, the NBA and then the MLB not so much. I feel like you're still like at the beginning as to like what you do with the NFL because one's good, one's bad. I don't know.
But what's the difference between the two? Between the NBA and the NFL, Major League Baseball? What's the difference? Why could one be doing better than the other?
cool. NBA you can actually like play in a bubble and like control it, but MLB you get to play in like huge stadiums. I mean, you could potentially control it, but they haven't really been doing anything to.
No.
I honestly have no idea because like I was thinking that to myself, and I have no idea how one could be doing. I mean, unless it's like because of the players, and like the players are just taking it more seriously.
So at the beginning, when all this was happening, um, there was talk from Major League Baseball that they could essentially bubble in Phoenix, right? There's probably 15 or 16 clubs that have facilities in Phoenix, Glendale area. Out the spot, the weather's usually good, even though it's hot as you know the summer is out there. But they play at night, and you have those teams. So there is talk of them bubbling in Phoenix. It's all in the same city. You could put the players in hotels. You could have the space to do it. Um, and the players union said, "Nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to be away from our families for that long. Not going to happen." So now Major League Baseball says, "Well, here's this 150-page protocol that we have for travel, and how are we going to handle this, and how are we going to handle these aspects?" And I don't know. I mean, you want to play, you have to make some sort of sacrifice. But on the other end of it, there's society wants to quickly jump to, oh my God, there's one positive, we can't do anything, right? And this is going to happen with the NFL, and it's going to happen with college athletics. Oh, we got a positive, can't play, can't do this. Well, let's really look about that. Is there a process in place of how we can control what we're doing so that financially we can still do it? Every other business has managed to still operate in some capacity, right? I mean, Walmart still is open and there's hundreds of employees that work semi in close quarters that can do that. We still operate different areas of that. So when you think sports, how can we do it? And where Major League Baseball has struggled, in my opinion, is controlling the narrative. So when we think through this, so much of getting out and doing things is controlling that narrative of what your organization is doing. So from the beginning, it was a month and a half long debacle of, are we going to play? Are we not? It's all about money. It's this. Well, yeah, it's about money. But how are we going to make this happen? So that was what the media saw. The NFL has been fairly quiet. And players are reporting to camp now, I think, is when the report date was. It was either yesterday or today. Players are starting to report to camp. So they get there. The teams are going to have a semi-bubble set up themselves of what they're doing. But just be smart about how they're going about it. And you have in the NFL, you have some players who are saying, I'm going to opt out this year. I'm not going to play. Was it Dante Hightower with the Patriots did that? He's like, I don't need $8 million this year. I'll go. My family, we just had a kid. Nope, not doing it. So I don't know. It's this interesting one because the NFL is going to play and travel around to different spots. I mean, you're going to have, I think, the Buccaneers going to Seattle or Seattle coming to Tampa. I don't think we're going to London this year, but that's still going to occur. So how are those protocols going to work? Because you're staying at hotels and there's a lot of points of contact. So financially, how do we still make that happen? And that's the major question that still has to be answered. But I think a lot of it comes down to controlling the narrative of what's actually occurring. And how do we do that? Right? The PGA Tour has had some people test positive, but they controlled it. They came out and said, this is what we're doing. Baseball, Rob Manfred didn't speak on it until like the night of the day that it occurred. Like, come on now, commish. Let's get your act together a little bit. So, yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. Interesting to see the financial ramifications of how this all plays out. So, anything else? Get your guys' eye on the news? Nothing? All right. So, let's start then. We're going to have a fun topic this week that we've all been impacted by. And it's inventory management. So, let's see here. I personally love inventory management. Being a former equipment manager, I love what I was doing. It's all about maintaining your inventory. I have no problem telling people no on things because we got to make sure we have stock there. When my first boss taught me, he goes, we give everything away. We won't have anything here when we need it. So there's that. But inventory management, when you think about sport, comes in a lot of different ways because, I don't know, what's the first inventory that is critical to a sports organization? What are we trying to sell?
The brand or like the name.
Okay, but I can't own that. What am I trying to sell to people every game? How do I make money?
Viewership.
Viewership? What's to say tickets?
Tickets.
I can have as many viewers as I want online or TV, online, wherever. If the whole entire world wants to tune in and watch my game, perfect. But I don't make the direct. If I sell tickets to something, I'm making that money. So in the sports industry, it's all about selling tickets and getting that in. Your first rule: no inventory and no sales. Hence, right now with teams, they don't have an inventory of tickets to sell, they're not making any money. Right? They can't have that. So If you don't have any inventory on hand, then you're not selling anything. So there's always ways. We got to find ways to find inventory, create inventory, and make things. For a usual game, your inventory is pretty fixed, right? There's only so many seats in the stadium. What did we as a sports industry come up with to try and get more money in ticket sales, but exceeding our seated capacity? What do we do? What type of ticket can you buy? Call that a standing room only ticket. Meaning we'll let you just get you in the door. You can go stand somewhere in a concourse and watch. You can come into our stadium and sit at my restaurant and watch it on TV inside the restaurant if you want, which is kind of silly to me, but it happens. We have a variety of pathways that are available to try and create inventory and do things. Jerry Jones is notorious for this. When he has a major event that comes to Dallas, he'll have standing room only. He'll have obstructed view tickets. There's people that'll spend $150 for a ticket to sit up in the nosebleed section with a partially obstructed view because there's a huge concrete beam that's going in front of you. You can't see half the field. But you know what? That's worth $150 to some people, and they'll pay it. So A+ to Jerry Jones. So we think inventory management, the definition of it is a step in the supply chain where inventory and stock quantities are tracked in and out of a warehouse. Really what it is. Your inventory that you have has to be contained. You should know how much of it you have on hand. There's different systems in place, and I'll talk about those a little bit later, that make that easier to do. This is also important from an accounting standpoint financially, because I got to know what my units are sold, how that's being sold, because then that turns into my cost figure that I have. And if I can keep my cost of goods sold down, then I can increase my net revenue, which means I make more money, show more money, or I want to inflate my cost of goods sold to, on paper, make it look like my revenues were lower so that I can then show less income, which means I get taxed less. So there's a whole lot of different ways to do this. But the goal really is to know where your inventory is at any given time. And then how much do you need to order to maintain certain inventory levels, right? And we've seen this, and I got a good example here, but we'll see this, and you've been impacted by this quite a bit. So why is inventory management important? What we know is it is the number one indicator for the longevity of a business. So for a business to stay in business for a while and keep operating, you gotta have great inventory management skills. If you don't, then you're gonna go out of business. Hence the first slide, no inventory, no sales. If I have nothing to sell, I'm not making money, right? So, and then I said 43% of retailers rank this as the number one day-to-day challenge. So almost half of all your retailers rank this as the number one challenge in their business, not making sales, but tracking and maintaining their inventory. Everybody hates doing this, right? And working in retail as I have before, inventory time is awful. There's companies who you can pay to come in and actually track your inventory for you. My wife and I were in Target last weekend, and there was this company called Regis or RGIS, and they go around and they literally count everything that's on the shelves. So you get a physical count of what's there, because it's the only way to know what your quantities are, because people like to steal stuff from stores and move stuff around. So tracking and making sure your inventory is there, it's the only way to know what you have. So, oops, hold on one second. So let's talk about this. Toilet paper and COVID. I mean, how many of y'all, did y'all run out to the stores, families run out to the stores trying to find toilet paper when it all started? Did anybody
Yep.
anybody threaten to run over somebody with a cart inside of a store to get their toilet paper?
Mine did. My dad owns a.
Yeah. So I'll never. It's the craziest thing, and I've gone through many hurricanes. I'm from Florida, so I am used to seeing items not on shelves. Right when a hurricane comes, water disappears from shelves. Like Publix just pulls a pallet out and puts it in the middle of the store, and people just take it. So when all this happened, it's amazing the stuff that are how COVID has stressed supply chains and inventory management systems that are in place. Most inventory management systems are not are fine-tuned to match that business's core actions and what they're doing, but not to uh, really maximize the surge potential that could come from people. So when everybody runs out to the store and buys toilet paper, well, they can't do it. Like literally, there's not enough there. So, and we saw recently, how did stores combat this with other things, hand sanitizer? What did they start doing?
You could only get a certain amount.
Yeah, they said you can only buy one item of this per customer or something to stop the crazy people from coming in and buying, 80 things of it and then taking it home and trying to sell it on eBay or putting it in a storage cabinet and trying to sell it and gouge the price. And the FBI comes and seizes it from you. That happened. So it's a very unique thing. And as I was making these slides for class and all this, it stresses that importance of good inventory management and how can you control it. Now that retailers have seen this, the impact of a surge capacity like this one, they can kind of model that in and how they have these reserves. And arguably the best company at inventory management is Walmart. Uh, they have a fantastic system, and theirs is a vendor managed inventory system. So the vendors that come to them have access to know what is selling at the stores. So there's national supply. When you buy something at Walmart and you go to the self checkout and you're scanning it and all those things come up, the system knows what you bought. So immediately at the store, it's automatically adjusting what we call par levels. So certain areas of, if I know, and a par level could be for, I don't know, let's just say bottles of water or cases of water. I know that I want to have 40 cases of water. That's my par level at the store. I don't want to get necessarily below that. If I get below that, I want to get back up to my par level, because par is where we're built to a little bit of that surge capacity that comes in, other things that get hit. So that's where we know, based off demand, we want to keep it around that point, to be able to challenge that. And also par helps with flow time that comes in. We'll talk about in a second. But so vendors can watch that. When stuff gets shipped in, here you go. So Walmart is fantastic. And they do this also, and Walmart knows where stuff is at any given time from the vendors and how it works for them. Is, let's say, Procter and Gamble, who makes everything from shampoo to toilet paper. I think Charmin is their brand. A lot of different various brands you use in your house. Procter and Gamble makes that at their factory. They then deliver that to distribution centers from Walmart across the country. And how Walmart's distribution network is set up is every 300 miles from point to point, there's a new distribution center. So it's a 300-mile range that trucks would have to drive from said distribution center to get to any of the stores that they have. And then from that point, that's how it's put that on. It goes on a truck and then it goes out to the stores. And most of these stores get 3-4 trucks a day, from grocery to everything else. My father-in-law is a manager of the dairy department at a Walmart, and he said he could get a truck, 2 trucks a day, come with eggs or something else. So there's just different ways that all works. And then there's 4 types of inventory. Your finished goods. So if you think about that, that's your stuff that you're buying off the store for them. It's off the shelves. We'll say making, no construction is needed for them. So finished goods. Transit, again, going from shopping center or distribution center or store or vendor to distribution center. So what's in transit? The buffer inventory, that's what they have to try and appease those buffers that they need to make that happen. And then anticipation. They're starting now. Walmart has already started. Guarantee in the earlier part of this year. I wonder if they've made adjustments to it. I haven't looked at their most recent filing, but if you think Black Friday sales that year, all the stores are announcing that they're going to be closed on Thanksgiving all day. So, in anticipation, what's that look like for our retail's biggest season as far as inventory management? So they're anticipating what items are going to sell and how that brings in. So that's their anticipation inventory. That might just hold at a place. Sorry. And then inventory performance. So this is very important to see and track is your turnover. So I want to know if I brought 20 units of an item into my store, how quick is that inventory sold out or replenished? So if I'm bringing, if we think toilet paper, I brought 20 units and it's out of there probably in the next hour. And Walmart knows this because it's scanned out. Everything's tracked. There's some inventory that walks out the door that's not scanned out. That happens too. But what's my turnover rate? How fast am I doing this? That's one, successful products. Your stock out rate, which is the rate at which inventory becomes inadequate and satisfying demand. There's a lot of products that are stocked out right now. For months, I've been trying to find Clorox cleaning wipes. My wife likes using them on the counter. After we're done cooking or whatever, she likes wiping it down. We haven't found Clorox cleaning wipes anywhere. And we're like, how hard is it to make? Like, we've got toilet paper back, we're getting hand sanitizer, but this stuff is still stocked out. Stores, retailers don't like having stock out because then they can't sell it, right? I go to Costco, can't find anything at times. So it's a stock out. And then inventory size is that, let's see, is that lower overall inventory. We call this just-in-time inventory. And next I'll talk more about that. So what's that kind of look like? When we think just-in-time, this is where your inventory is made literally just in time. So due to technology, we now have the freedom and flexibility to provide customized products, right? If I, let's say, Brian, do you have a baseball glove that has your name on it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So we're not just making Brian Port baseball gloves, right? And that's ordered, then we have to make that. So it's just in time inventory. The gloves are already there, but it's not a finished product. It's still a work in progress when it's done. So we have to make that. And these just in time, one, it reduces cost. So if I'm building things that throughout a process. So another one to think about this is houses, right? There's not a lot of people that are just building houses left and right and they don't want them to sit. Usually when houses, especially down here in Myrtle Beach, if I'm starting a community or building a community, I'm not going to just throw up houses, right? It doesn't do good. But I'm going to build houses as needed for people when they come in, right? Because one, it reduces my costs. I'm not building something that people don't want, so it takes me longer to sell, which is dead stock. So just in time is a unique avenue that's come forward. The advent of advanced manufacturing practices, I can now do this and create different items that are more customizable, exactly what my customer needs and not a generic product that my customer has to then alter. So it creates better service. But just-in-time inventory is something to be aware of. And I'll talk about how just-in-time comes in specifically with the sports industry in a bit. So we think, how do we make all this come together? your lead and flow time. You have to know how long it takes to produce a product for a customer, right? And it sounds silly, but the time needed for a sports organization to produce a ticket for a customer, right? That could be as simple as walking to the ticket office and it might take 2 minutes for me to find a seat, hit print, you buy it, there it is. But I got to know what that time is, right? Another one, how long does it take to make a hot dog in a concession stand? Sounds silly, but what's that process look like for me to get there? How long does that take? Making a pizza, right? If you go to a game and sometimes you get really good pizzas there and you're like, that'd be so nice. Well, the pizza probably takes 5 minutes to go through the little oven. So if I'm stocked out of pizza at the time, someone comes up wanting a pizza, well, they're not going to buy it. And what are the odds that they're going to come back to my concession stand? And I'm like, oh, give us 5 minutes, they'll be back. They're like, no, thanks, we're good. I'll go somewhere else. Right. So those are things you have to think about in that flow time to come in. And we also, and from a traditional manufacturing or retail perspective, for Walmart, their flow time is how long does it take me to get a product from vendor to the store on the shelf? And we try and cut that down. Amazon's flow time. How long does it take usually to get a package from Amazon to you when you order it? How long? 2 days, prime, right? So that comes in handy. Now, one of the unique aspects of a technology in doing this is drop shipping. Anyone ever order anything from Fanatics or a Team Store? Do you know what Fanatics is? Fanatics is, Brian, go ahead.
I've ordered some stuff.
Okay. So Fanatics is a spot where pretty much they own all the rights for merchandise and sales for teams. And their headquarters are in Jacksonville. A great company to work for. But they've gone in and they've said, hey, I don't know, let's see. Hey, Atlanta Falcons, let us come in. We'll pay you a guaranteed amount of, I don't know, $5 million a year to you that you're going to take and guarantee for. And then we're going to come in and we're going to run your team store. And we're going to run your online team store. You don't have to worry about any of the inventory management aspects of it. You just get $5 million. We take care of the rest. We take care of all the risk that comes with that. We purchase all the inventory. You just let us run your team store. Arthur Blank goes, sure, I'll take $5 million. That's probably more than $5 million, but I'll take $5 million and we'll get a percentage of anything you sell too. And what Fanatics does is I just ordered a Tampa Bay Rays shirt where I'm from, a Chicago Bears polo because I used to work for them. So I ordered that off Fanatics and they drop shipped it to me. I had it here a week later. So it worked really well. The other thing, drop shipping, I was at a golf tournament last year at Grand Dunes here. And they gave us, there was a merchant out there, Travis Matthew was out there. And so it's TaylorMade. And I'm walking around, I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'm like, I want a Travis Matthew polo. And they gave me, we got like $200 free to spend at the two places. I'm like, nice. Well, they just had samples out to look at. They're like, what's your address? And all this. I was like, sure. So they had it. They went back, drop shipped it from right there, hit the shipping, and their warehouse sent it to me. I had it within a week. It was great. I put Bonibus on here, or Bonibus, I don't know pronounce the name. They have stores where people can go in, but you just try on the stuff, and then you're like, yeah, we'll order that, and we'll ship it to you. So it's a way for merchants to control their cost in a way, that they're not putting additional merchandise out in stores, because the worst thing happen, then you got to put stuff on sale. That takes up shelf space. So now we're not making as much per square foot of our store. There's lots of ways to do that. So drop shipping is a great way to maintain inventory, especially now where people are more accustomed to kind of waiting 2 days to get something, right? Y'all feel weird if you're like, oh, I'll get that. It's nice to get it immediately, but do you care if you have to wait a day or two for it to arrive? I don't. So, and how does this all play together with sports organizations? One, inventory management for ticketing. You got to know what tickets you have available and how can you sell those tickets. What platforms can you do? What seats do you have necessarily that are there? How can you put people into your seating? Trying to fit that in. Know how your stadium usually fills up with seating. So if you're if you're selling tickets for a baseball game, the seats that typically fill up first are it's going to work usually behind home plate and then kind of spread out along the baselines. And if you have cheap tickets in the outfield, so different segmented bases. But know that, because then when people come up to try and buy tickets from you, or if you're the ticket manager for them, now you know, hey, we need to keep this section kind of open. Maybe parties will come, or how can we fit this all in? Concessions. Inventory management is very important for concessions, because the worst thing you can do is at the end of a game, have a lot of food sitting there left over. Because what happens to it? You either A, give it away for free. The people who work in the stand take it with them for free, because you can't do anything. It's going to spoil. You can't keep hot dogs until the next game. That won't work unless you're Daniel Snyder, and then it might work for the Washington football team. But he's been notorious for that. But concessions are very important. Knowing your inventory you have, you don't want to run out of food. You especially don't want to run out of beer in your concession stands. That's bad news. My job when I worked for the Phillies down in Clearwater, I was the intern for food and beverage. So stocking up and maintaining adequate inventories and concession stands is something, it's an art and part of a science too, because you got to know what's likely to sell. What are your hot items? How are they supposed to move? You don't want to, and it's not fun to try and bring a keg or two from one concession stand to another because you didn't put them in the right place. But also, when you have 8,000, 10,000 people inside of the spring training park and you're trying to wheel a keg through, that's not fun either. Because people see a beer keg and they start drooling and they'll pay you as much as you want for it. But you got to put it in the right spots. So concessions is very, very important for inventory management. When I was with the Phillies, they didn't really have a true, they had par levels, but I tried to bring a different element to predict how much was going to sell per attendance at games. So you'll actually see that this week in Excel. Is trying to predict how many, I think, cookies are going to be eaten in the suites, because not that I don't want any food to go to waste. I especially don't want cookies to go to waste. Those are one of my favorite things. So kind of that. And then your team store is maintaining that inventory of apparel. And with team and apparel and everything else, you get to a unique situation that a lot of times these Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, sometimes teams don't have, they have unique colors or limited edition of items that have to be sold. And let's take Coastal Carolina, for example. The teal that every sport wears was custom created from Under Armour for Coastal, because the first iteration of it was absolutely awful. And we went back and said, no, that's not right. So anytime, if you go to the Under Armour store, outlet store here, or you see that it looks teal in shops, if you look at the back of the UPC code or the barcode on it, you will see some numbers, and the last three will say 710. That's our custom color for Coastal. And they sell it other places. They like it, but it also means that you can't really buy a surplus of that from at any given time. So this is where when I was in equipment, we had to order everything, our whole inventory of product. We had to order that in November to arrive the following July to last us all the way through until the next July. So how do we do that, especially with custom shoes? All of our players' cleats. How do we make these? Because you can't just call up them and be like, hey, I need a size 18. That doesn't work very well. Same for some of the stuff you buy from teams. They've gotten a little more flexible with it. But some of these companies like Adidas have made it easier where they have brought into the United States a custom screen printing, embroidery, anything else. As long as it's there, they can make it for you. So it's there, but you might pay a little bit more for that. So there's different things to consider. So what are your guys' thoughts on inventory management? Did we learn something new today? No?
It's crucial if you're trying to maintain the money that you want to make.
So where else does inventory management kick in sports? I didn't cover it, but where else does it kick in? Think about it.
For like the players,
What about
you need like the right equipment. I mean, but obviously that stuff doesn't come and go as fast. But like nutrition wise, I guess like if you want to keep like stocked up on like good nutrition for the team and players and stuff, I know that.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Good, but where else? What is critical for the NFL, for Major League Baseball, for the NBA? What do they need to be successful in the long run?
Players.
Players. Absolutely. They need the players. So at a time when there's fewer, and we saw this with the NFL where when we had CTE and that whole thing. Well, and it still exists, but there is thought that maybe some of these players who would be going to play football would now transition to go play basketball or maybe baseball or golf and these other ones. So now if you don't have the top tier athletes that are coming to play your sport, does that kind of degrade your product a little bit? To an extent?
I'd say so.
So maintaining that pipeline, and it's weird to think about people as inventory, but maintaining that pipeline of inventory, and granted your flow time on that might be 12 years, right? But if they have to invest in it, and we've seen the NFL invest in it with USA Football, their own youth football league. Major League Baseball does this through the RBI program and some of the others that they try and funnel in and get this in. Major League Soccer does a fantastic job at it, where they have little academies at their spots and where kids can start playing when they're like 8, 10, and they get around it. So all they're doing is evaluating talent and checking out their inventory, potentially, right? The Premier League clubs, I forget what is it, Barcelona. Most of the players that play for Barcelona have been with the club since they've been 10. Been playing soccer together since they've been 10 and 8. So it builds that chemistry, it builds that inventory to stock up. Baseball, so why we have a farm club. We just have inventory on the shelf that we can replenish. We see this now even with COVID, where they have their taxi squad of players that are still a part of your inventory that you can just put on the shelf, right? And people will use. So that's something to really think about. So I maintain inventory across the board and maintain those levels and calibers of what I'm looking for. So, but cool. Any questions for me over anything? All right. So with that, thanks for joining in, and I'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.